Here are 5 tips for developing an effective brand that are going to set you apart and above your competitors. In order to really achieve freedom on the level that I know you want, you have to work on brand building. This didn't used to be true. The internet actually spoiled entrepreneurs for the first 10 or 15 years. You could sell just about anything, any product, any service, any commodity, and you could do it sans a brand. But what happened? The world caught up and people now want to know who you are. They want to know who you are, what you do, why they work with you, what your mission, vision, values are. Tip number 1, niche down until it hurts. You want to get so niche that you actually think you're niching too far. You're not going to do this right out of the gate. If you pick a niche arbitrarily, it's like walking outside and saying, I'm going to drill for oil here. Instead, you want to do what I call the hourglass of niching, which means start broad and then narrow down as you begin to see what works and what doesn't work. I have a whole video on the hourglass of niching that you can watch. I'll link to it above. Your intent as you're working through your business is to define your niche and build it into your brand. Every business that I've built that's actually really scaled successfully. I have an agency that serves Montessori schools. That's not schools, that's not private schools, that's not private preschools, it's private Montessori preschools. There's less than 5,000 accredited Montessori schools in North America. Adjusted for margin of error, that's 0. That's about the smallest niche you could possibly think of. And yet, it's $1 million business. I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency on the planet. That's not marketing, that's not digital marketing, that's not paid traffic and digital marketing, that's just Google Ads. I had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet, right? That's not real estate, that's not residential real estate, that's motivated seller leads for distressed asset sales. Like little teeny tiny myopic markets. And what's interesting about it is in each case, the niche was the brand. The brand stuck out because I could come and I could tell you exactly who it is that I help and how I help them. And if you don't know how to niche down, there are 3 levels of analysis to pay attention to. Let's break it down in kind of 3 dimensions. So your x-axis is going to be the service that you offer. What is it that you do? I'm a plumber, I'm a dentist, it doesn't matter. What is it? What are the tools on your tool belt? How is it that you're helping people? That's one way to niche, right? I had the Google Ads agency, that was a service. The y-axis is the industry. I help Montessori schools. I help real estate investors. I help insert industry here. So you have your service niche, you have your industry niche, and you don't have to have both defined, incidentally. You can choose one or the other. The z-axis is geography. How is it that you help people? Who is it that you help? And where is it that you're helping them? And again, you don't have to choose all of these, but choose one. Choose one and niche down hard because it becomes one of the most important cornerstones of your brand. Step 2, create a framework and own it. Here's the interesting thing about most people's frameworks is they're just repurposed from other people's frameworks. Like Brendon Burchard has his high performance habits, which I don't think is any different than anybody else's habit coaching ever, except that, he modified some nomenclature and semantics. I still remember when Ryan Deiss, who was a friend of mine, by the way, so I'm not bashing Ryan at all, but Ryan came out with the customer value journey. And if you're an old school digital marketer, you know what I'm talking about. The CVJ was just Ryan taking the standard marketing sales funnel and changing the graphics. And yet he built a massive business on it. He defined an entire community of marketers for half a decade using the CVJ, which was just a repurposed sales funnel. Donald Miller took the oldest human tradition, which is storytelling, and then branded it because he turned it into his own framework, mapped out the way that it should look, and sold it as his proprietary thing. Building a framework really just means articulating how it is that you do things, and most importantly, naming it. When you've named something, you own it. It's the naming convention. At Solutions 8, we had the bottom-up funnel. The bottom-up funnel meant we started with conversion, and then we reversed the process so we could begin to see, well, based off of what converts, what should the messaging look like, what should the outreach look like, who is the customer. But if you really think about that, that's just Google Ads. We were a Google Ads agency. So all we were doing is articulating what Google Ads looked like, but we did it within our own framework. So define what the framework looks like, offer a naming convention to people, and then own it. If you want a good framework, it needs to be proven and proprietary. Proven and proprietary. Proven means it works. Let me show you all the different ways that this framework works. So Ryan Deiss had that with the CVJ. Donald Miller had that with StoryBrand. Proprietary means this is mine. The CVJ was Ryan's. The funnel was everybody. CVJ was Ryan's, right? Donald Miller has StoryBrand. Story is the world's, but Donald had the StoryBrand. Proven and proprietary. So find yourself a proven and proprietary framework, name it, and then own it. Step 3, talk about what others won't. And this is true on the positive and it's true on the negative. We'll start with the negative first. What are the skunks in your industry? What are things that other providers are afraid to say? What are things that scare customers away? What are things that customers are afraid of or should be afraid of or don't necessarily know? When I ran a Google Ads agency, it would take 90 days before you could begin to see signs of life in a campaign. And I would say that on the very first sales call. Hey, just so you know, if you're not in it for 90 days, this isn't going to work for you. And let me tell you why. And then what would happen is they'd go talk to 3 other providers who would all promise some results right out of the gate, but they trusted me because my my narrative sounded and ended up being what was reasonable to expect. So what are the things that other people are afraid to say from a negative perspective? Turn that around. What are the things that people are afraid to say from a positive perspective? Within the realm of Google Ads, once you have conversion tracking installed and Google's been able to identify what avatar is actually purchasing from you, you don't need an agency anymore. As a matter of fact, there are so many campaigns where you can just play set it and forget it. Most Google Ads agencies didn't want you to know that. Why? Because they wanted recurring revenue. I would tell customers right out of the gate, hey, on a long enough timeline, we're actually going to optimize ourselves out of a job, and here's how we approach that. There's other products and services we can open for you. There's other markets we can open up for you. Or if you want, I can just train somebody internally on how to manage these campaigns. What are the things negative and what are the things positive? And you, being the only one willing to say those things, put yourself in a position of authority. You're the thought leader. And you get to build a brand around that. You get to build a brand around you being the people that other people trust. Go to Reddit right now and look up the name John Moran. John Moran was my business partner at Solutions 8. And the entire Google Ads world moves on John's word because John gives people the uncomfortable truth. I was flown to Google's offices in London and asked to speak on Google videos. Even though I'm not a proponent of Google, I wrote a book called You versus Google. I have positioned Google as the enemy my entire life. And yet Google realized that the entire Google Ads world trusted me. So they asked me, would you mind doing the videos on Performance Max and showing people what does and what does not work? So when you are willing to tell people what everybody else in your industry is not, that's a phenomenal way for you to really build your brand. Step 4. Build a community. Community is the most important facet of your business. It's the future of digital marketing. Community is the well from which you can always draw. Community is going to yield not just customers, but employees, vendors, strategic partners, other thought leaders. There's nothing more important for your business than a community. And communities can be small. But if you want to build a brand, build a community. Every powerful brand has a strong community. Think about all the biggest brands in your life, all the brands that you really engage with, and they end up being a form of community. Think about Apple users. Apple users are nuts. They're cult-like in their commitment to Apple, but Apple ends up being a community unto itself. If you don't have an Apple product, I can't iMessage you. We can't even really talk to each other using the mechanism that I'm most comfortable with. And you can do this on a really, really small scale. Communities don't need to be big. As a matter of fact, smaller communities end up being more potent. So if you want to really power your brand, build a community. And the community, if you don't know what a community is or what it's going to look like, it's just the place where you go to serve. This YouTube channel for me is a community. I'm looking to build a community. And with community, you want to give first, give last, give more. Build community around giving. I'm giving you content, knowledge, everything that I think most people in my position would try to charge for. You know, they want to be a consultant or sell you their course, and I'm just giving it away wholesale. Why? Because I want your trust. I want your trust. I want you to look at me as an authority so that when I do go to sell something, you're like, you know what? I actually kind of trust that guy. I believe what he says. I've established my brand. This is the reason that Alex Hormozi can slap his name on literally anything and all of a sudden it flies off the shelf. Grant Cardone's doing the same thing. Cardone has Cardone Aviation and Cardone Healthcare and Cardone, I mean, the guy was I'm not bashing, he was a car salesman. Grant Cardone was an expert car salesman who got so good at what he did and built such an effective brand that he now can sell quite literally anything. Patrick Bet-David's doing the exact same thing. And then of course, you know, if I wanted to climb up the ladder, you look at The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel and you know, once you've established authority as a brand, it puts you in a position of really being able to lead a community in any direction you want. Ryan Reynolds is selling gin and cheap mobile services. Now, I don't expect that you or I will ever necessarily reach his level, but it doesn't matter because you can do the exact same thing on a much, much, much smaller scale. So if you want to build a brand, build a community. Step 5. Be your own case study. You can't be a fat personal trainer. You can't be a poor business coach. You need to be able to articulate the results that it is that you're selling to people. And the people that get outed, the people that crash and burn, the people that get eviscerated online are the people that are trying to show themselves as something that they're not. And it's sad, but it happens all the freaking time. This doesn't mean that you make results up. It means that you draw upon the results that are authentic to you. And by the way, whatever those results are adequate. They're where you're at now. So stop trying to fake results that aren't necessarily real. This is what I hate about the Tooth Comma Club. I ran $100 million a year in ads. I can tell you, I saw, as often as not, people selling $1 million gross revenue and making little to no money. So I can put $1.2 million in ads, sell $1 million, lose 200 grand, and Russell Brunson will still give me a Tooth Comma Club award, right? Like there's no articulation of authority there. Gross revenue is a vanity metric. There's so many vanity metrics in every industry. Avoid the vanity metrics. What are the things that you've actually done? Build your brand around the things that you've actually done. And if you're small, start small. That's okay. It's authentic. It's what people want to know. You know, if you have one really good case study, lean on that. And that's how you build your brand. You build your brand. It's slow, it's steady, but it's authentic. And authenticity is always going to be a better foundation than the whiz-bang flash, because anybody can go Airbnb a San Diego beach house and Turo a Ferrari and spend, you know, what is that? It's probably 10 grand for that day and shoot as much content as they possibly can, but there's no authenticity to what you're offering. And that's going to be the brand that gets eviscerated. So if you want a strong brand that lasts, define it around the things that you've actually accomplished. Even if you feel like those things are small, that's okay. That will attract the right customer, the right employee, the right vendor, the right strategic partner, the right attention. That's how you build an authentic brand, and then you grow that brand accordingly.